Well, hello everybody. We are switching it up and I'm doing the intro tonight. I am Morgan and we are here to talk about our 5th place finisher in Survivor Monte Carlo, McKenna Inglis. And I am joined tonight by my co-host, Ian Moorhead. Ian, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Morgan. Oh, I've been waiting for this day, actually. I'm like, one of these days we'll switch spots. So yeah.
Did I do it justice? Did I do okay?
This is already a blast, and we haven't even started talking to McKenna yet. So
And of course, we have Lilly Petzold, our exit interview mayor, as Ian always says, the mayor of the exit interview. Lilly, how are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to crack into it. And I'm jealous that you're outside enjoying the summer life.
Yes, I am on summer vacation now, officially. If you have been watching all of the exit interviews. So I'm soaking it up. And of course, our star of the evening, McKenna. How are you?
I am really, really excited to be here. I have been talking about this moment since the episode started. I've been making notes for my exit interview since episode 1. So this is like the best day of my life so far.
Oh, awesome.
Except for not winning Monte Carlo. That would have been better.
That would have been better.
Fair enough.
Well, and so McKenna, this was your first official org, correct? Do you have any like big takeaways that would be a great opener for our discussion tonight? It's from your notes.
This one is not in my notes. It's off the top of my head, but it is a way bigger time commitment than they sell you on. If people say, you get out what you put in, that's accurate, but you will want to put everything into it. So just be aware. I was not, but we'll get to that.
Well, something that we talked about with Margaret was the fact that Margaret's placement, 8th placement, is the earliest a Bad Bitch book member has gone out to date. What do you think? We kind of talked about it with Margaret, what we thought, and Ian posed the question. So I'm going to throw it back at you and see, why do you think that us book members do pretty well in these long game formats? Because we haven't seen somebody in a mini yet.
Yeah, I guess similar to what Margaret said, like, you're already part of this online community where the main objective is to talk about similar interests and to meet new people. And while it was kind of formed out of the pandemic and virtual only, it became, at least for me, like a huge part of my life. And like, I've met real lifelong friends through it. And so I think this is that, but competitive, which I love that. So I think that plays into it. Like, you're already intentionally joining something where you're going to meet strangers. You already have that familiarity with Zoom and chatting with people and Facebook. Like, it's just secondhand. It's second nature now. So maybe that plays into it. Also, I just feel like you have to have a certain personality to meet people online, and that helps. At least it helped me.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of Margaret, you guys are kind of separated after the One World, and you don't really get back together until the swap. At what point, or I guess at this point, are you thinking it's too far gone, I just want to get her out? Were you trying to work with her? Because we don't see a lot of that dynamic in the episodes.
Yeah, and again, she hinted to this in her exit, but at the swap, I had a one-on-one with her, and that was like my first Zoom one-on-one with her, where I said, I'm not voting you out. I was like pretty vocal and adamant I didn't want to vote girls out pre-merge, especially since there were only 5 of us. Julia was a different scenario, but sorry. But that was like something that I was pretty vocal about, and it wasn't because I wanted to work with Margaret or Kiley or anybody, just I like that. I like working with women. But I did propose, like, Margaret, let's work together, and she kind of was like, that's a no. So she never outright said no. She kind of was just beating around the bush, but I could tell she had her loyalties on Ruken, and it wasn't going to match up with my loyalties on Serpone.
Was there anybody else that you had a chance to connect with in the One World phase that you were looking to reconnect with, but just couldn't with the tribes and the swaps and voting people out?
I think my One World experience is really interesting. I will say Kiley was probably one person that I connected really well with in One World and got along with really well. But then you see, you know, we do kind of work together, but I'm never loyal to her because I had built such stronger bonds on the other side. But I feel like I had no idea what I was doing coming into this game. And so during the One World phase, I was like, I hate this. This is my worst nightmare. Like, I compared it to online dating. Like, you just constantly telling people where you're from, what you do for a living, and your favorites. And I was like, if I have to say this one more time, I'm quitting the game. And I think I did threaten that a couple times.
Just copy and paste the message.
Right. Like, just start the message. My name is McKenna. I'm from Grand Rapids. I like these things. But so I didn't really form alliances. I didn't really get into those groups. Like, we hear about the Texas Alliance and the Econ Alliance. And I was like, if someone wants to chat with me, they'll chat with me. And they didn't. So the first time I ever like got in a group was at that first tribal that didn't happen. And it still wasn't an alliance. It felt more like, okay, these people have a commonality. I don't have any ties to them, but we all want the same thing.
Do you think that if you had been on the other tribe, you would have made it as far or farther? Or do you think that having that group that you worked a lot with helped you at the merge? Like Mike, Victoria, Jonathan.
So that like group that was safe at first. I think I honestly do not think I would have made it this far without, like, in that tribal that didn't happen scramble phase is when I met Mike, and Mike and I hit it off right away. Like, he mentioned old friends, you know, I have friends that are exactly like Mike, and so I felt very comfortable with him. Similarly to Victoria, I don't have friends like Victoria, but we got along very well, and we just seemed to mesh. And I think that was a pivotal time to build those relationships. Whereas if I was kind of off safe, there weren't a ton of people that I guess in the long run I meshed with anyway, on that other side.
I'm glad you brought up Mike because I don't know why I transitioned with that, but a big part of Mike's game, right, was he was like out in everybody's face. And we see a lot of your social game in the episodes, but it isn't until probably you get out, Mike and Kiley, that I say as the viewer starts to see like, okay, you are playing a very strategic game. Do you think that you were playing strategic before the merge and we just didn't get to see it? Or were you kind of waiting it out? What was your plan?
I think I can answer. There are like two different answers. There's the in hindsight answer, and then there's like the actively in the game answer. Like, in the game, I was playing to survive. Like, with my name being thrown out at the first boot, and then again, even on Serpone by Elijah, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Why do people want me out of this game? I'm like, I'm not good at it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just here to make friends, have a good time. But I think in hindsight, I was listening to my gut a lot, and my gut was telling me use Mike as a shield, like build those relationships that are my relationships and not Mike's relationships. With Jonathan, Kyle, Victoria, that I can use, long term when I have to cut Mike. And, I will probably talk about Victoria a ton because we worked so closely. But, we talked pre-merge about when do we have to cut Mike. So I think it was a relationship that I value, and I love Mike as a person. But you definitely see that strategic switch post-merge, like a definite strategic switch. And I think it was being put in place pre-merge.
Mm-hmm. Do you think if Mike didn't have Kiley, you would have, and Kyle still goes where he goes, do you think that you kind of step in as his, like, because we see right in the episodes, he is very loyal. He wants to work with Kiley. Kiley is his number one. Do you think if Kiley is not in this scenario, maybe she gets voted out pre-merge, you become his new Kiley, his new ride or die? Do you think that just was never in the cards?
Maybe he would try, but I think I recognized, like, Mike's not good for my game anymore. Being associated with him is not good. I mean, I'm not sure why Connor wanted me out so often, so early, and talks about it all the time when, like, no one else is putting my name out there. But I would assume it's because I had ties to Mike at one point. And so I think he even said in his exit, like, the ship's sinking, jump off. So maybe he would have tried to make me his ride or die. I think even in the episodes you see in Will's vote, like, I was so anti-Mike. Like, I did not want anything to do with Mike, but I still was accepting these conversations with him, and he's setting me up with moves, that I would have never made had he still not tried to work with me. Mm-hmm. So I think I set myself up well, where I was like, no, he's not with me anymore. I don't want him to be with me anymore, but he's still coming to me like, save this sick little puppy, and I just stabbed him in the back.
I think it does say something to your game. Like, we see, and I do want to talk about it, this like fake Michael vote back to back, right? And even after that, we still see Mike and Kiley want to work with you. And I think that's a huge, I don't know the word for it, but like a huge bravo to your game, that these people that you're looking at them and you're like, yeah, we'll vote together. And then you don't. And they're still like, okay, McKenna, like, what do you want to do? And I think that's a huge, you did great in that aspect of the game. And maybe Connor was catching on a bit.
Who knows?
Maybe giving him too much credit, but.
No, maybe he was. Maybe he was.
In the application, one of the questions is compare yourself, or compare what you think, McKenna's a new player. So compare what you think you'll play like compared to like a Survivor winner. And I don't remember anybody's answer except for McKenna's, because I feel like your answer of Erica from Survivor 41 is like literally exactly the way you played, besides the point of like actually winning. Like, yeah. Erica was, although at different times of the game, you were both targets pre-merge. And then Erica really did just play socially right down to the point of like the will boot, like final 8, final 7. And then you both like swung in with a strategic game, and, unfortunately it didn't quite work out for you. But like, I think that is like one of the best strategies in Survivor, is to be that like social queen, king, whatever, early on, kind of convince other people that that's the only thing you're doing, because as long as you have those relationships, your strategy can kick in at any time. So I just think, like, one, it's super impressive that you were able to kind of hit the nail on the head of how you would play before you even knew exactly, like you said, you had no idea what you were getting yourself into. So like, I think that's impressive. And I think it also goes to show like another aspect of your game is like self-awareness. And that's an aspect of everybody's game, and every winner, every good player has, some degree of good self-awareness. So Yeah, I don't really know like where I was going with that, but just wanted to point that out because I feel like Lilly brought up like different aspects of your game. So I think it's impressive that you kind of pulled this strategy out of your hat a little bit and also like made such an accurate read about yourself before the game even began.
I think part of the reason for that, thank you, first of all. Second of all, is like being social is not a strategy in my mind. Like to me, it wasn't, at least. It like being social is my personality and being is my job. I like have always worked with people and like served people in, you know, one way or another through my jobs. And so I feel like connecting with people isn't hard for me, and it's something I thoroughly enjoyed doing despite being overwhelmed with how many people I had to connect with. And so I think a lot of these relationships, which probably was my downfall in the end, are like genuine relationships that have translated into post-game friendships. And so that's why I think in every voting confessional that did not get aired, I'm like, this is so hard for me. Like, and some of them that did get aired are like, oh, this is hard for me, because I liked all of these people and I thought these people might, you know, we might form a relationship, but it was like hard for me to end this game for them. Or like maybe they don't think I'm voting this way, or maybe, you know, it's just like, it wasn't a strategy until I realized it was a good one. So.
Well, to transition away from the fun stuff, I did want to ask, had you ever considered flipping and voting or using Kiley, Mike, and Will as a vote?
In the game, no. I was like, something that's not shown a ton in the episodes is like my relationship with Jonathan. And until I guess this last episode, like I think our relationship is really brought to light of how close we really, really were. Jonathan was the first person I felt good about. Like, first person I looked at him, I'm like, you seem trustworthy. Haha. Like, all of these, like, we get along really well. We still get along really well. And so he kind of approached me in the sense of, you're like someone I want to work with. I can see us going to the end together on day 7. And to me, that was end game. Like, I'm not going to flip on him. I'm not going to, at no point did I ever say I want to get Jonathan out. I never put his name on the table. And they were. And so I feel like, no, there was no scenario. Had they gotten to me before Jonathan, maybe. But after that, no. Especially since I knew the game that they were trying to play with Jonathan, and he was, you know, so he was just playing them vote after vote. So I think if they approached me and said, oh, we can rope Jonathan in too, I knew they couldn't. And so I just like really don't see a scenario where I would have done that if the beginning of the game plays out the same.
Watching everything back, is there anything that you wish you could have done differently since the merge that might have brought you closer or to Final Tribal? Or do you feel like your name was already out there from the first vote? It was bound to happen.
I've thought about this a lot, and I've talked about this a lot with a lot of different people, but that were in the game, I just don't see a path to the end for myself. Like, I see myself in a group. I guess in the game, I saw myself as like the weakest link in the group. And so I thought, they're either going to cut me because they want to sit next to a stronger player, or they're going to cut me because I can't win a single immunity challenge to save my life and someone has to go. But yeah, I just don't think, I think if I linked up with Mike, Kiley, and Will, and literally any other 4th, 5th person, I'd be fifth boot, if not fourth boot, but or fifth place, if not fourth place. And yeah, I don't think it would have to be a miraculous situation. I would have had to have won immunity till the end, to sit at the end.
I think it's interesting because I noticed in this final episode, and I didn't know if it was the editing because you can't put everything in the episodes, or if it really was, you seemed like you were in survival mode at final 5. We see everybody go through, if it's a final 3, I want these 3 people. If it's a final 2, I want to sit next to this person. But when it cuts to you, you don't really have a definitive, like, this is my ideal final tribal, like, and this is how I get there. And so I was curious to see if you did, like, have a route, because it is hard at that point because everybody has been voting the same. And to bring up Victoria here, which I think is appropriate, you guys have been kind of viewed by some of the cast as making similar moves, such as like the 2 Michael, like, yeah, we'll vote that way, and then we don't, and getting out the Mike, Kiley, Wills. Were you thinking at this point how you would differentiate yourself from her if you got to the end?
I think this vote was where my eyes were opened to what was actually happening. I watching it back and thinking about it all the time, there was a moment during that confessional that I said, Jonathan is the most dangerous person in this game right now. And I hadn't noticed that. I had, but at the time I was with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started thinking about Endgame, because him and I were talking about Endgame, who do we want in our 4, in our 3? I'm like, I'm screwed. Like, if I sit next to him at the end, I lose. Mm-hmm. And then as Victoria started winning, I'm like, if I sit next to her at the end, I'm screwed. I think maybe relational, I had stronger relationships with the people on the jury. But I'm such an emotional son of a gun that I would have brought them to the end anyway, because like I said, it was like serendipitous. We started together, let's end together. Let's see who wins. So yeah, I definitely could feel it. I had a conversation with Michael. We're both like, I'm voting for you. And he's like, I'm voting for you. And then we talked about anything else. And so I think I even said it in final tribal, or in tribal council, like, I know I'm going to see my name. How many, I don't know. And at that point, while I was hoping for a different outcome, I was getting the bad vibes, just the sick stomach. I had a really bad conversation with Victoria and Jonathan where I'm like, I'm not good. We're not good.
Yeah.
So those are like things that you didn't see that definitely contributed to me feeling like it was a must-win immunity, and I just didn't do it.
Do you think if Jonathan hadn't won, let's say literally anybody else, maybe Connor, because I don't think Connor goes at this vote no matter what. Let's say Connor wins immunity. Do you think you think about targeting Jonathan, or like you said, it's probably Michael no matter what?
Yeah, Michael was the only name I felt comfortable saying at that point. I viewed my game and Michael's game as, not that I didn't think Michael wasn't playing a good game. I really thought he was. And I thought I was playing a decent game at that point, but I think I was shell-shocked that I'd made it this far. And I I just didn't want to be the first boot. And then if I went after that, I didn't care. But I felt like my back was against the wall. Michael's name had been out there. Our names had been out there together. It just felt like the safest option.
Let's say Michael goes here at final 4. Who do you target to then let's hypothesize there's a final 3? Who are you getting out to try to get to a final 3 with?
Victoria. Again, because I would have never, in my heart of hearts, knew Jonathan was playing the best game. and I would never beat him at the end, I would have brought him. And I think it would have been easier to differentiate my game like from his game than my game from Victoria's game, like you said before. And I mean, she whipped out an idol. She had those immunity wins. She's a returning player. Like on paper, she had all the things that a jury could be looking for. And I felt maybe I was more even with Jonathan, even though I knew he would win.
Who do you think you were closest to in this game? Just overall, maybe like the top 3. I have a follow-up question.
Top one.
No, I can't do top 1.
Okay, do top 2 or 3 then.
Oh,
I'm nicer than Ian.
Yeah.
In no particular order.
Okay. In the game, I was closest with Jonathan 100%. Victoria would be in my top 3 because we just, once we got past that we were playing not playing the same game, but that we were working together, and we felt very comfortable with each other. At least I felt very comfortable with her. We started like breaking those friendship barriers and starting to talk about things unrelated and you know, future meetups and what would we do if we hung out. Those were like things that we started talking about, and so that made me feel very close to her. And I felt like we just shared things with each other that friends share with each other, and it was no longer just a game relationship. I know what answer you're looking for the third person, but I don't know if I can say. I would say Mike pre-merge. Post-merge, I had some horrible interactions with Mike. But yeah, definitely, like, we're very similar people outside the game. I just really like Mike a lot and connected with him like that. You know, there's few people that you connect with like that, and he was one of those.
Okay, my follow-up question is, what book should they each read this
Oh geez. Can we come back to it?
We can come back.
At this point, I've never read a book in my life. Like, actually, that's how I feel.
Well, my last question before Facebook, other than that one, which we don't have to circle back to, but it's a fun one.
Can I text you later? Like, I don't know.
Is if you could play with anybody from Monte Carlo Again, whether it be org or real life, 2 people, who would you pick and why?
I would play with, you guys are gonna get sick of me saying this, but I'd play with Jonathan because in the game he was telling me about his previous games and how he'd play and then like win or get really close, and then he would play again with that person and then take them to the end and let them win. So selfishly that, and also I just like spending time with Jonathan. I'd like to play with Margaret, and I would like to play with her and get off on the right foot, and now we have this background relationship, and if we can both keep our mouths shut, then I think it would work, because we're both pretty social, and especially if we started on opposite tribes, we could pull a Mike and Kiley, but better.
Well, that was my last question before Facebook. If either of you two have any questions.
Yeah, I'm curious what some of your notes have to say that we haven't gotten to.
We've hit a lot of them.
Yeah.
Mostly Ian. I've told Ian most of my notes. Let's see. Oh, just how close Jonathan and I really were. Like, that just wasn't represented in the episodes, and like I don't know if that's lack of clips or lack of time. Like, but yeah, like I said, day 6 or 7, he's like, "You're it." And I think maybe if I had to pick like a regret in the game, it might be not committing to that sooner, because I don't know if this is the case or like what their relationship really is like, but as Victoria and Jonathan, but if I had committed to Jonathan before Victoria, would I be in that opposite role? So I know our relationships are very different now talking post game, but or like the way that we played the game together is very different. So I wrote that down. I also wrote there's no way I get higher than 5th place for sure. I wrote about the will vote, like, Mike, what were you doing? Why were you coming to me still? Like, the cut to the clip of I'm not working with you anymore. Then he's like, you're going home. What do you want to do? I'm like, no, I'm not, but I'll do something about it. That's pretty much it.
Was that moment for you like I'm playing Survivor and this is fun? We're in the last 30 minutes, you're fake pitching a Michael vote.
I think the Margaret vote was the start of it. I'm like, dang, power. And power and strategy, because like Victoria alluded to, we were just going to leave him out of the vote. But I had this relationship with Kiley where I thought, I didn't think about Will and Mike, but I had this relationship with Kiley where I'm like, I want her in on this vote so that she's not pissed at me. But now I'm like, crap. She had Will and Mike. And the whole time on the Zoom, she's like, we can't leave them out of the vote. We can't leave them out. I'm messaging them right now. And Victoria's like, I don't like this at all. What are you doing? So that was the first moment. And then, when Mike came to me, like, saying, you're going home, what do you want to do? And I'm like, let's vote Michael. I bet. And he's like, we have a 5. We can get a 5. And I'm texting Victoria, like, feverishly. I am not switching my vote. This is not real. Like, come on this Zoom right now. I am lying. Please play along. Like, because I didn't want there to be any backlash there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just in case. So
I think you get to final tribal. I was thinking about this. If Michael goes and then you're able to convince Connor to vote Jonathan and there's a fire making competition and you get them to put their votes on Connor, maybe. At least then you have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
I've been thinking about, like, I had to win immunity at 5. I think I had to win immunity at 5. And then who knows what could have happened. And I did kind of feel defeated at 5. Like, who else could I reach out to? Like, Connor and I just we never were on the same page. We were on the same voting page, but we were never, I tried hard to have a relationship with him, but it was like exhausting when it didn't feel like it was reciprocated. So I just felt like, what else can I do? Who else can I turn to? If the people I trust most in this game are going to screw me over, they're going to screw me over.
Yeah.
And they did.
Well, are we ready for Facebook?
Sure.
Okay, well, before that, I just want to ask Morgan a question. Morgan, I'm sitting here listening to McKenna kind of talk about her game, and I just feel like we don't have too many comparable people, castaways from Monte Carlo and Exile, but I feel like the 2 ladies on our screen right now are like uber comparable in gameplay, personality, all kinds of stuff. Like, I just feel like listening to, and I probably never put that together because, we don't talk about the game when we hang out or anything, but yeah, I just wondered if you also thought similarly.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that earlier today. So it's funny that you bring that up because I think Lilly and McKenna are very similar, like just like you said, in the way that they played the game. Both very social players, built lots of connections throughout the game, and that's what like brought them to the very end or near the very end of the game. And they're both awesome. So
I'm honored to be compared to McKenna.
I'm honored to be compared to you. I just finished exile for the second time, so
I hope you skipped final
Aw.
trial.
I did speed it up. It's like you already seen the outcome, so
Yeah.
I was trying to get to the bloopers.
Okay, well,
the Connor dancing scenes are
Yeah.
gold.
Iconic.
comedy of both seasons for sure. All right, well, your first question is from Victoria Fung. I enjoyed going to all the same tribals with you and making a new friend along the way, and I also won't forget what a baboon is. Since you are likely the biggest threat at Final Five, how do you think you could have lowered your threat level or increased someone else's threat level?
I've been thinking about all these Facebook questions since I read them, so I don't know if that'll help or hurt me in answering, but the baboon comment, hilarious, classic Victoria. But it's really interesting because I did not perceive myself as the biggest threat at 5. I was starting to feel like the perception of me was that I was the biggest threat. That's what Kiley was like pounding in my head, like you and Michael are the biggest threats. And like I was seeing Jonathan's game, I was seeing Victoria's game, and I'm thinking they're bigger threats than me. I thought I was getting potentially goaded to the end. Like I didn't have the confidence in my game at that point. Watching it back, I definitely can recognize I had a stronger game than I thought I did. I don't know, maybe like just airing, I don't know, because the crucial pieces that like Victoria and Jonathan were working together, that Victoria had the idol, those were things that were kept from me. And so I feel like I tried to increase Michael's threat level by saying, you know, original Root Ken on the jury. He was part of that Margaret, Parker, Andrew, Kiley group. You know, I'm thinking if they're voting tribal lines, he's a for sure winner. I don't know. I know I said I was kind of playing like back to the wall, maybe scared a little bit at 5. I really don't know what I could have done to increase someone else's threat level. I felt like revealing that Jonathan and I were working side by side this whole time would have been stupid, because then that makes me look like I'm playing a worse game than I'm playing Jonathan's game. Because I considered that like, hey, by the way, I told Jonathan to vote Micah, which isn't true, turns out. So I don't know. It's a good question. It's something I've thought about. And I don't think I could have downplayed my threat level anymore. I'm like, seriously, you guys, no one's voting for me. Like, I screwed them all over and lied to them multiple times. Which I guess I wasn't thinking, like maybe they respect that gameplay more than a quiet game. And while I was still playing a quiet game. So those are my answers without answering the question.
All right, Victoria, well, I hope you're satisfied.
Yeah, Victoria.
Next question is from Kyle. What is the biggest lesson you learned from the season that you could apply if you played another game?
I cannot play with my heart, and I do. And I will still probably. I'm an emotional person. I value relationships more than anything. And so like in a long game, you build these relationships with people, and you like people. I respected the people I was playing with, and I valued their friendship, and I respected their game. And so it was hard for me to be cutthroat when it came to cutting friends. In like a different format, like a mini, I don't know. I could also be emotional. We'll see. But I think that's definitely the biggest thing is like first of all, I need having confidence in myself that I am strategic, that I have the ability to think through moves and plan ahead, and having a plan is something that I didn't have coming into this because I'm like going vote by vote. But yeah, having confidence in myself, having a plan, and not voting with my heart and voting with my head instead. Hope that's satisfying, Kyle.
Next question is for Margaret.
Okay.
McKenna, my fellow book club baddie in arms. It was so great to meet you and make IRL friends with you despite peak stress when we played this game. My biggest mistake was not formally aligning with you when there were multiple chances to do so. Do you think we would have taken over the merge if we had? Second question. And on a game note, or on a non-game note, which characters make up your holy trinity of book boyfriends? Answering Ren Birdman 3 times isn't allowed.
Okay. First question. No, I don't think we would have taken over the merge. I think we were already a perceived duo, and that was told to me multiple times. I think if had we worked together, I think it would have actually been detrimental to my game because I probably would have stuck my neck out for Margaret, and my group would have been like, whoa, like, why are you, there's now a relationship that you have on the other side with someone who has multiple relationships on the other side. And it definitely would have increased my threat level more than it already did when we weren't working together. Honestly, like, while I was upset when it didn't happen at the swap, it's probably better for me. Because if anything, I would have gotten swooped up by Margaret's side and potentially cut sooner, or cut sooner by my own side. Oh, and the book boyfriends, she actually gave me some time to think about this one, so I made some mega notes in my notebook. I have a continuous list of, those are work notes. Let me find the right page. Let's see. I have like a list of book boyfriends. It's like 50 long.
It's a lot of book boyfriends.
It's not that long. But there are like some that rotate in and out. First one is Marlon Grip James from Grip by Kendi Ryan. It's like my all-time favorite book, all-time favorite author. My roommate is currently reading it after begging her for 6 months to pick it up. It doesn't get better than that, in my opinion. My second one, I lost my note page, so it's not even helpful. Oh, my second one would be Nova Booth from Inked and Lies by Gianna Darling. Another, don't recommend it if you don't like motorcycle club books, and I found out this year that I do. But he is like just a sweetheart. Love him. This makes me sound so lonely. Third one, though, is Jake Connolly from The Risk by Elle Kennedy. One of the first books I read when I like got back into reading as an adult. So special place in my heart. They're all also kind of like bad boys. So if you're a bad boy, hit me up. My God, cut that.
Whoa. Absolutely not cutting that. All right, next question. And I would assume that Margaret would be satisfied with the end of that regardless. Next question's from Jonathan. McKenna, I'm so very lucky to have had you by my side in this game. I'm even luckier to call you my friend. Speaking with you always brightens my day. I hope you know how wonderful you are. You possess all the qualities of a great winner, and I can't wait to see you crowned just that sometime soon in a future game. My question would be, how do you think you would have done if you started on Ruken instead of on Serpone?
First of all, that question made me emotional. Go figure. I I don't know how it would have definitely changed my game. I think I would have been swooped up by Kiley. I would have been just like absolutely starstruck by her social skills, and probably lumped in with Margaret, which I've said now detrimental to my game, being kind of grouped there. I think I would have felt in a better position had I lost that first or won the first immunity challenge, the individual immunity challenge, and then been put on Ruken, because a lot of Ruken was over there. And I would have felt like, I was close with Andrew, I was close with Kiley. I wanted a relationship with Margaret. I wanted to work with Will early on. So I was kind of like, had those sequence of events happened, I would have been pretty happy. And but I still think I would have done worse. I just think my people were on Serpone, and the people that I could truly connect and truly work with were there on just a deeper level.
All righty. Next question's from Will. McKenna, my fellow Michigander and golfing legend. You had mentioned during the Parker vote out round in your confessional that you wanted to work with me, but then proceeded to never do so. My question, what changed between the Parker and Margaret vote to change your mind? Also, next time you play 100 holes, I need to be invited.
Okay. I always did want to work with Will. So I wanted to work with Will in One World. I thought there was like that Michigander connection. We talked about golf, which is like so surface level, but anything connects you right away. I liked Will, thought he was like easy to talk to. And then the like just perceived negative connotation with the Nick vote kind of made me wary of him during the merge. And then we got put on that Ruken 2.0 at the 4x4x4. And I was like, oh, perfect, the time to rekindle with Will. And he just came on hard and fast, and I was like, whoa, what's happening? I obviously didn't know anything that was happening over on Ruken, or at least I didn't think I did. I still wanted to work with him at that point. Like, I wanted to potentially see how he could fit in with my alliance and my game. But I think he had just such a negative connotation around him because of the Nick vote, because of being perceived as being on the bottom of Ruken, that it would have been detrimental to me to actually work with Will. And I do think in that Parker vote, Will throwing out the name was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I could still be working with Will, but I mean, enough to get through a couple votes working with Will, but have true allegiance to my two, at least Jonathan and Victoria at that time. So I don't know what could have happened. I just think our timing was off. And I would like you to know that Will did say that I got only 2 birdies in 108 holes. And so this year I got 3. The whole time thinking about Will. Not the whole time, that's a weird comment, but whole time thinking I gotta beat 2 so that Will doesn't give me shit.
I won't be cutting that one out either. Okay, next question from Parker. All right, if you had a stand-up comedy special on Netflix, what would be the title of it?
This is the hardest question.
Great fucking question.
Hardest question. I have been like thinking about if I ever wrote a book, what it would be called. And I think similarly, like a stand-up special would just be the live version of the book I would write. And like little known fact, probably well-known fact in DCP now is that I would love to do stand-up comedy if like money wasn't a thing. And if I wasn't such a little baby with my emotions. I couldn't stand people booing me. Anyway, I think it would be called something like, there's 2 different options that I've been toying with. One is like, I'm not drunk and other lies I tell my friends. Like, I'm just the queen of, no, I'm not drunk. I'm fine. I'm good. Which I think could encompass like a large scope of the funny things I would write about and talk about in my life so far. The other one is denim on denim with nowhere to go. Because like in college, the epitome of fashion to me was like dark denim on light denim. And I'd be like all dressed up, nowhere to go. So those are my two options. Still toying out the details of them, but.
All right, next question's from Nick Cannon, the one that played this game, not the fake rapper / fake actor. I'm sad that we quickly became adversaries in the game due to purely strategic rationales, but huge kudos to you for outlasting, outwitting, and outplaying me. 2 questions. First, had I not thrown out your name during the one world phase during the tribal, non-tribal, who would have been your target and what would have been your game plan to oust them?
This is another good question. Every single question, good question. Probably still Nick. I think at that point in the game, I was getting a bad feeling from Nick from the brief one-on-one we had, the multiple group chats I was being tossed in with him. Unfortunately, I guess, for Nick being the one asking the question, I don't think I would have had to do a ton. I really don't think that him throwing my name was what was the biggest detriment to him leaving. I think him coming on hard and fast with too many people was what really was the detriment. And then I got the credit because like my relationships did come and tell me, and it turned out to be positive and beneficial for me. But I still think he would have been the most obvious target. Second would probably have been Parker, just because I hadn't had a relationship with Parker at that point, and I didn't know who Parker had relationships with.
All right, and Nick's second question is, if you had won the grand prize, which Grand Rapids restaurant would have been your go-to for a celebration?
The Winchester is my favorite restaurant in Grand Rapids. If this game had been played in the summertime and I was going to celebrate, I would go to the Score. The Score is like my favorite summertime restaurant because it's like the beach. You eat and there's sand under the tables, and there's sand volleyball, which I don't really like sand volleyball, but I like being around it. I like having the option to play, but I won't.
Morgan shaking her head because she actually knows these places.
True.
Yeah. All right, next question is from Kylie Scruggs. McKenna, you are the coolest and the best, and you played such an amazing game. I am so sad to see you go, but it has been so fun watching you this season. If you could choose any prior DCP season to play on, which would it be and why?
And I'm going to add a caveat that you can change the format. So if it's a mini, but you'd rather a long game, you can switch it.
Just the cast then.
Yeah, the cast. Yeah. Because we have a lot more minis, so to make it more interesting.
Yeah. Okay. If it stayed mini format, I would play in Iriki Island. Still stand by that answer, 100%. If it was a mini turned long game, like I would love to play with like the Lalamana Beach cast, Morgan included. Morgan especially.
Heck yeah.
That's such a good question, Kylie. Ugh. Fun to think about.
Yeah, since McKenna was voted out of Monte Carlo, she quickly became a DCP super fan, enthusiast, whatever you want to say. Before we got on and started doing this chat tonight, she told us that she finished Exile Island for the second time. So she is really deep in the rabbit hole, which we appreciate. But yeah, great question, Kylie. And good answer. That's kind of what, having spoken to you about the seasons that you've watched, that I would understand those answers. So
yeah, I don't know. I think that I would just fit well with those casts in those situations.
Okay, couple more questions. Next one is from McKenna Feeney. My dearest golf book straight McKenna, what can I say but you played an amazing game and are truly one of my favorite people I've met through our little community. The question I want to ask you is, are the hours you spent in bed playing the game comparable to the amount of hours and miles Jim Bunce walked during exile? Hashtag sorry not sorry for that IG pick last week.
Yes, they are comparable, probably more. Which just learned that Jim Bunce is a fellow Michigander. Did not know that until yesterday. Super fun fact. Jim, where am I taking my car to get its oil changed? I didn't know.
Yeah. So also, I coach track and cross country with Jim. So that's how he found out about Exile Island. So I see him at track practice every day, and every day after a new episode comes out, we talk about it. He's watching Monte Carlo, so he's cheering for you guys.
I love that.
That's awesome.
So fun. And as someone who just finished Exile Island, I can tell how many miles and hours he spent walking outside. I'd say I played 85% of this game from my bed. Sitting in bed, laying in bed, my bed at my parents' house. There's a bed, I'm in it, and I'm playing Survivor in it. So a lot of time. I started at the desk, and then I was like, dang, it's a lot more time than I thought. So gotta get in bed. And I actually have the picture pulled up.
Yep, there it is.
McKenna, I'll never forgive McKenna for that. I actually DM'd and asked if it was Greg or McKenna. Like, who would do that to me? And then I shared it because I thought it was so funny.
Okay. Last question is from Kiley Kelly. McKenna, in hindsight, knowing that Mike, Will, and I were truthful in wanting to work with you to Final Five, do you think you would have placed better with our group than the group you ended up going with?
I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but no, I really don't. I am just really, really happy with the group of 5 that made it to Final Five and the group of 4 that made it to Final Four. Like, I think if I had stuck with Kiley, Mike, Will, and a 5th, I would have been perceived as the weakest link, like for sure, and kind of the person they're dragging. Whereas in this 5, I think the perception now that the episodes are out is definitely a couple people are playing stronger than others, but like going through the game, I was a large threat apparently. And I just felt like really good. And like, I think there was a conversation with me and Michael where I'm like, I genuinely am so happy for anyone of this 5 that wins. Like, we were playing from the bottom more or less the whole game. And it was just really, really satisfying to play with those people. No offense to Mike and Kiley and Will, I love them, but it would have been bad for me.
All right, well, thank you to everyone for submitting Facebook questions. These were great questions, and McKenna supplied hopefully satisfying responses. Lilly, crack away for the second time.
Yeah, so we like to end. Sorry, it is late. I'm like cracking out over here. We like to end our exit interviews with the same 2 questions. I know Ian has one, but mine is, if you could sum up your game in 1 word, what would it be and why?
Yet another question I've been thinking about, making notes on. I think I've gone back and forth, but I think I've ended with roller coaster. I started really low, and then not getting voted out of that first tribal, or not going to that first tribal, awesome, still in the game, really high. The Elijah boot, really low. Was convinced I was going home, even though my alliance was like, no, you're not. The Margaret boot, the Will boot, really high again. Then after Margaret's low, bad conversation with Mike. Then Mike's boot, through the roof, sky high. Getting voted out, low. So I just think that I like experienced every emotion playing this game, and I was like, the game I think really changes you, or like, it's not real Survivor where you're out on, starving and you're out on the beach and in the elements, but like, I was mentally fatigued. I was like unknowingly sacrificing relationships outside of the game, like with my friends and my family, and to play the game. And I think it just takes a toll on you, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. Except for winning, obviously. But yeah, so I just think it's a really good picture of how my game went.
All right, and then my question all season from marooning until when you were voted out, who has impressed you the most and why?
I think there's a couple different ways I could go about this. I think the most obvious answer is like Jonathan Victoria as a pair. They've impressed me keeping their relationship a secret and just playing me like a fiddle. Like, love them both and cherish their friendships. But yeah, you got me. You got me good. But on the flip side, I like saw a lot of their games, so I wasn't, not that I wasn't impressed, but I wasn't surprised by it. I think like an answer people probably wouldn't expect would be Will. I was really impressed. At one point during the game, I said, I think Will's playing the best game. He has this huge, like, not target, but, you know, he's an easy vote. He's the next one to go. He plays from the bottom. At the time, I had 100% confidence that he was the head of the Andrew vote. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, Will is a contender. He's here to play. And even watching it back, it's like he used that time where we were losing and they were winning to really claw back and build those relationships and play, like really play. So that would be my other answer. See you more.
She back. All right. Well, before I turn it over to Morgan for closing us out, I just want to say in another way that you two are both, Lilly and McKenna, both comparable is while hosting both of you, I was like, when this is over, I want to be friends with these two people. And thankfully that has happened in both cases. McKenna, you deserve every positive, piece that everyone gave you tonight in your questions. Very happy that this game brought me another friend, even though like it sucks that I can't, work on that friendship while hosting. It has to wait till after. So I just kind of have to hope you do well in the game, and you killed it. So yeah, you're a great person, great player. And in a season where kind of veterans controlled the game, you and Will really were like, in my opinion, the shining stars of like the new players. So yeah, kudos to you. And Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to repeat the same things that Ian said, but it's been awesome. Like just watching you play and grow as a player, and you really did some impressive stuff. I remember doing some confessionals with you. I want to say like final 8, final 9, you were like, man, I really feel like I have some pull in this game and I'm like making things happen that I want to make happen. And that was really cool to hear you say. And it was awesome just talking with you tonight, hearing everything about your game from your perspective. And I hope everybody enjoyed watching my adventure tonight. I have made it home. And with that, tomorrow night, you will see the Final Four battle it out on DCP. And then I got to keep my day straight. Monday is the finale. We're there. We're less than a week away. Craziness. And we will find out who our winner of DCP Survivor Monte Carlo is. After the finale, we will have the live reading of the votes and reunion. And then we will also be having exit interviews for the castaways who are in the finale coming out after
the finale airs. So all of that will be coming out next week, and we hope you follow along. See you in the next one.